There's a dangerous myth a lot of people still believe, that betrayal, especially in relationships, is loud, that it crashes into your life with obvious signs, arguments, distance, cold silence, or dramatic confrontations. But the truth? The real danger is much quieter than that. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't wave red flags in your face. Instead, it moves in silence, carefully, strategically, almost like a shadow that blends into the background of your everyday life. And that's exactly why so many people miss it, because what you're looking for is chaos, while what's actually happening is control. Today, I want you to see something deeper, not just behaviors, but patterns, not just actions, but psychology. Because once you understand these subtle shifts, you don't just react, you see clearly. And clarity is power. Let's start with something that almost no one pays attention to. The first pattern is what I call the harmless connection illusion. It often shows up disguised as something innocent. A best friend, a coworker, someone from the past, someone she mentions casually, almost playfully, like they don't matter at all. She might tell stories about him, laugh about things they shared, even show you pictures, like she's being completely open and transparent. And that's exactly the point, because by putting him in the light, she removes suspicion before it even has a chance to exist. It's psychological brilliance, really. You relax, you trust it, you tell yourself, if there was something going on, she wouldn't be this open about it. But what you don't see is what happens outside of your view. Because while you're being shown the harmless version, a deeper connection is quietly forming underneath. Conversations that carry emotional weight, complaints about the relationship, vulnerabilities that should be shared with you, but aren't. And over time, that emotional bridge becomes stronger than you realize. If you ever question it, the response is almost predictable. You're labeled insecure, overthinking, paranoid. And just like that, your intuition gets dismissed. But here's something important to understand, Sophia. Transparency isn't always truth. Sometimes it's strategy. Now let's go deeper. The second pattern is the moral shield. This one is incredibly convincing because it plays directly into your trust. She presents herself as someone who strongly values loyalty. She speaks against cheating with intensity, almost like it disgusts her. You'll hear things like, "I could never do that," or "I don't understand how people betray someone they love." And she doesn't just say it casually, she believes it, or at least she performs it convincingly. This creates a mental image of her in your mind, a good person, a loyal partner, someone who stands firmly on the right side of things. And once that image is locked in, your brain starts protecting it. So when something feels off later, you hesitate because it doesn't match the version of her you've already accepted. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to admit. Sometimes the loudest declarations of morality are not about proving something to you, but about convincing themselves. It's a shield, a carefully constructed identity that makes doubt feel irrational. And when doubt feels irrational, it gets ignored. Now, this next pattern is where things take a sharper turn. It's called blame reversal, and it's one of the most emotionally destabilizing tactics you'll ever experience. Here's how it works. You notice something small, a shift in behavior, a change in energy. Maybe she becomes more distant, more guarded, or suddenly protective of her phone. So you ask a question, not aggressively, not accusingly, just trying to understand. But instead of getting clarity, you get attacked. Suddenly, the focus shifts. Now you're the problem. You're controlling. You're insecure. You're suffocating her. You're creating issues where there are none. And just like that, the conversation flips. Instead of addressing your concern, you're now defending yourself. It's emotional redirection at its finest. And here's why it works so well. Because you care. You don't want to be the bad person. You don't want to push her away. You don't want conflict. So what do most people do? They retreat. They apologize. They silence their own instincts just to restore peace. But Sophia, listen carefully. When someone is honest, they don't punish you for asking questions. They reassure you. They create safety. But when someone is hiding something, your questions feel like threats, and threats get neutralized. Now, let's move into something even more subtle. The fourth pattern is routine camouflage. This one is almost invisible because it hides inside consistency. Everything looks normal. The same schedule, the same habits, the same patterns you've always known. Gym days, hangouts, work commitments. From the outside, nothing has changed. And that's exactly why it works. Because your brain associates routine with safety. You think, if everything is the same, then everything must be okay. But here's the twist. The routine isn't the lie. The details are. She may go exactly where she says she's going, but what she doesn't tell you is who else is involved. The extra time, the conversations that happen out of sight, the moments that exist just outside your awareness. It's not about changing the structure. It's about hiding inside it. And unless you're paying attention to subtle inconsistencies, it's almost impossible to catch. Now we enter a space that most people completely underestimate: digital behavior. The fifth pattern is controlled visibility. In today's world, communication isn't limited. It's layered, complex, hidden in places you wouldn't even think to check. And that's where strategy comes in. It's not about obvious secrecy anymore. It's about selective exposure. She shows you what she wants you to see. Photos, posts, public displays that reinforce the idea that everything is perfect. But outside of that curated space, there's another layer. Private chats on platforms you don't use, conversations hidden in unexpected places, alternate accounts, restricted stories. It's not about deleting evidence. It's about placing it where you'll never think to look. And that creates something powerful, a controlled narrative. You see enough to feel secure, but never enough to see the full picture. And finally, the sixth pattern. This one is the most confusing of all, because it doesn't feel like distance. It feels like love. It's called emotional overload. Out of nowhere, the energy shifts. More affection, more attention, more passion. It feels like the relationship is suddenly thriving, like you've entered a new honeymoon phase. And for a moment, it feels amazing. But something doesn't quite align, because the intensity feels forced, almost like it appeared out of nowhere. And that's because it often does. This kind of sudden affection can sometimes be driven by guilt, an unconscious attempt to balance something that feels wrong internally. So what happens? You get flooded with love. And while you're focused on how good it feels, you stop asking questions. It becomes a distraction, a beautiful, convincing distraction. But deep down, there's still that quiet voice, that feeling you can't explain. And here's the truth, Sophia. That feeling matters. Because awareness isn't about paranoia. It's about clarity. It's about understanding that not everything is as simple as it looks on the surface. Most people move through relationships relying only on words. But words can be shaped, controlled, performed. Behavior, on the other hand, tells a deeper story. And when you learn to see that story clearly, something shifts inside you. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop ignoring what you feel. You start observing, understanding, and making decisions from a place of strength, not fear. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't to become suspicious of everything. It's to become aware enough that nothing catches you off guard. The truth isn't always comfortable, but it is always freeing. And once you see things for what they are, you can never go back to seeing them the same way again.